Welcome and hello on today's episode on the Golden Muse Show, talking about awareness. And today's guest, I'm delighted to welcome Susan Nefzger. Hello, Susan. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me. This is such a blessing.
Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being on the show and spreading your light. And there are lots of different ways we can spread our light. You can spread your light. And Susan decided to step up and write a book. And the book is called A Practical Guide to Awareness. And through this conversation, as I like to call them, soulful musings, I will have a chat with Susan, and then see a little bit about her journey, about what awareness is, and how important it is to become more self-aware, so you can discover your true gift. And by doing so, you can actually live your self-purpose, your soul purpose, and yeah, it's going to be. I'm really looking forward to it. So, Susan, I will start with asking you. How would you actually define awareness, according to your experience, according to what you have felt?
Yes.
What is to become aware?
Awareness, I address that immediately, in the beginning of my book, and I ask the reader, what is awareness to you? Because to every individual, it's a different thing. So for me, awareness was finding my true gift in terms of writing what I was supposed to write. Mm-hmm. And we all come into this life thinking we know what our purpose is. It's to be a mother. It's to be a parent. Some people know right away and some people never know. So for me, awareness is being self-actualized. And so by that, I mean knowing who you are at the soul level. Mm-hmm. And that takes a lot of work, or at least it took a lot of work for me to find out what that was.
Yeah. So when you talk about awareness, then is more appreciating your connection with your spirit.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely your spirit, your spirituality, and who you really are, not how you've been conditioned through your life of education, work, family relationships, personal relationships, and parenthood, and everything else. And so that's the challenge we all face as humans, is we all go through that. But staying true to who we really are is the challenge. And if we can stay true to who we are, then we will know who we are. But it's very challenging. Mm-hmm. In today's world, especially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, you know that I'm going to be asking you a big question. So how do you become more and more aware of who you are? Because it's not like you wake up one day, you say, Eureka, I know exactly who I am.
Right, exactly.
So it takes it, and then every single one of us, and it's got a different stage through life. We all evolve, and whether it's the circumstances, whether it's the family surroundings, whether it's education, whether it's your own sort of curiosity to explore and find out more. And then really follow, for me, is really follow the breadcrumbs, really. It's like one thing will lead you to another. So how was it for you, Susan?
Well, I have to say, one thing that's really important is that I have a twin sister. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes a big difference in a person's life. If you have a twin or a triplet, if you have someone that you can always count on to be with you, it's different. It's just different. And it's really difficult to explain, but you just know that person's always there with you. So that's important to know, that I have a twin. And we're both very creative people. And she's always been extremely creative in terms of painting. And the painting behind me, she painted. She could do anything artistically. And then I was always on the verbal writing side, always creative, always drawn to writing and reading. Avid reader my whole life. And as soon as I could read, I was reading everything. So that's a key. And so these are the keys. So when you're young, you know, sometimes things come to you. You love to read, you love to write, you love to draw, you love to, some people who are physicians or surgeons, they're drawn to those things early on. Some people aren't, but there always is a clue from when you're very young. So, for example, I always wanted to be an archaeologist because those things always, and it's still an extreme interest in my life. And I always said, oh, I can't do that because I won't make enough money. That's what I said when I was young. But it's still a true love. But the one thing I always knew, and I never pursued, is that I knew I was going to write a book. I know that sounds like a cliche, but I knew that from a very young age. And I was always involved in reading and writing. So it can be very simple. So that's really kind of how I've always been reading, and I've always been writing. And even in university, I was an English major, and it was delightful for me. You know, I loved it. And I just always knew I was going to write a book. I had no idea about what. I was never serious about it. Never. And I had a career. I had a family. December of 2015, I said, finally, you know, this year, because I have the time, I'm going to try to write this book. I still didn't know. I had no idea. I had no inkling. I had nothing. And I had been receiving information from the International Association of Conscious and Creative Writing. And I don't remember how I received the information initially, but I'd been receiving it for quite some time. And I would read the writing prompts sometimes, and I just never really had time to pursue it. So I got the invitation to the Conscious Writing Retreat in May of 2015 from Julia McCutcheon, and I knew. Now, granted, my adult life, I had been seeking through all kinds of spiritual research, esoteric research, body work, energy healing, qigong. So I explored all of that in my 30s, and I started doing all that when I lived in Atlanta. Really? So that's when I really became awake, was when I moved to Atlanta. And so I explored all kinds of spiritual teachings. And but when I got that invitation, so I had been on the path for about 30 years. So when I got that, I knew. And I just said, I have to do this. And I had no idea why. I just knew. And I was, at that point, pretty good at following my instincts and knowing that that was something I needed to do. So I did it. And that was the reason, is because I had to write the book.
So would you say that the more you were connecting with your spirit, the more you were connecting with your, as you call it, your instinct or your intuition, or really we call it the inner voice, that, you know, your higher self, connecting more with your truth, you know, and then you say yes when the opportunity appears. Yes. So you said yes, because these opportunities turn up at different stages in our lives. Maybe different opportunities happened to you before, but you were not ready to say yes to it. But at that point, you were ready. But not only that, you were awake. You were ready to say, yeah, I'm going to do this. Although it was not sort of easy for you because you had to travel over to UK. So, but you didn't see it as an obstacle. You didn't see the obstacle. You just followed. I also like to call it follow my heart. You know, you said yes to it.
That's
and then I guess that's it, because sometimes, you know, awareness is. It could be even very superficial, you know. People say, I am aware of, I understand, I get it, kind of thing. But yes. in our conversation here, awareness is actually it goes a bit deeper. Yeah.
Yes, it's very important for me. Yeah, because you can be aware, and you can meditate, and you can continue to follow a spiritual life, but it doesn't mean that you're aware. Because I had been doing it for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. And meditating, which is very helpful to knowing who you are. finding the quiet space within and listening to yourself at that point. You have to be quiet, to listen to yourself, and you have to listen to yourself to find out what your heart is saying. And and that's addressed in my book, that what song is your heart singing?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I address it in the book, because your heart is singing.
Yeah. Well, talking about knowing what who I was and what I wanted to become, or when I was a child, I knew I wanted to become either a doctor or a teacher, and I remember myself being sort of in a group of people, young ones, and then I was the teacher and I was teaching them. And then I became a teacher, and I have been a teacher for the last however many years now, 28 years. So, and teaching is part of, but my teaching actually has evolved. So I've been teaching languages for many years, modern foreign languages, to young people and adults, different countries in the world. But there was a point when I was not available to me anymore. I still love languages, but now I teach the language of color and color psychology, and that's why you can see the bottles behind. They're not perfumes, by the way.
No, beautiful. It's so beautiful.
So you see, it's about also, yes, somehow we know from the beginning what we want to be, but then there's always a change. There's always a different pathway that you might say yes to it, because that could actually give you what you had described before, more of a connection with your soul purpose and more of connection, with your spirit, and then that gives us abundance of freedom to become more and feel more. So that's how we're becoming more aware, but also we have that openness, that curiosity as well, and to search to receive. I think once our signal, we can actually, we're tuned in, we can receive, and that's the other thing for me. That's how awareness works. When you are in flow, and then you can receive.
Yes, in alignment.
Yeah.
Writing is about being in alignment with the creative consciousness. So once you're in alignment with the creative consciousness, that's what conscious writing is all about. Then you discover what you're meant to write for writers. So that was largely a lot of why I went. And I've never thought about, I've been to a million conferences. We've all had all those types of opportunities, but I was never drawn to any kind of a writing, because I just felt like it would be intuitive, that I didn't need someone to tell me what I was supposed to write or how to write it. So, but I knew that was, but I've also always been open and curious my whole life also. Even as a young child. And I always felt that I was different, and I always felt like I never fit in.
Yeah. So
that can be a negative thing when you're very young, but when you're evolving, it's a positive thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you are talking now to all of you who may feel like that, who may feel that somehow you're not fitting in, because I felt like that too. So you're not on your own. You're not on your own, and it's not a laughable matter, but it is like it's like to keep it light. Basically, that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes we're thinking, we think we don't fit in a community, or in an office space, or even within your family, and then you say, I'm different, and then it's hard to accept yourself as you are. I think awareness has a lot to do with that as well, hasn't it, Susan?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it really does. Because once you accept yourself for who you are, I think you're more open to finding out who you truly are, because you're going to follow, like you said earlier, the breadcrumbs. You do what your passion is, or you figure it out and you follow that and you stick with it, and you don't follow the path of the shoulds. But generationally, it's very different. So for our generation, it's different. For the younger generation, it's much easier. I think they're all more aware that, because they've been given different opportunities, and it's easier for the younger generation to be aware because they are more open to everything. It's how I see it anyway in the US.
Yeah, you would probably expect that, but there's still I think
Yes.
there's a sense of overwhelm as well, of
Yes.
there's too much around as well. So that would be a good topic for conversation another time.
Yeah. Sorry, I've been off on that.
Because then we go through talking about teenagers and young
Right.
people, and then I'm fascinated with this by this, and in the book I'm actually writing myself, in the book of Soulful Musics, there is a chapter dedicated to children and conscious parenting. So I am very much, because I've been a teacher, so children and young people have been part of my life for many years now. So I'm really, my heart goes out to them. And once we start becoming more aware at a younger age, and understanding more how meditation works, how mindfulness works, relationships, and accepting yourself as you are, and loving yourself as you are, if there's all of these things are cultivated and nourished at an early age, it's imagine the blossoming and how much flourishing there will be later, much easier.
Yes, I see it. I see it. And I've been consciously raising my son because I chose to bring him in. So I met him before as a soul, and then I decided, okay, I'll do it. And so we're very close and we're very connected. So I've always tried to be a conscious parent. It's not always easy for the child either, because sometimes things can be a little scary. So even with conscious parenting, in explaining, what the big picture really is, it's not this, it's this, or it can be this, or it can be anything. You make it. You can do anything. It's still sometimes overwhelming for the younger generation. And I see that in my son too, a lot. He's 19.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to read that chapter in your book.
Yes, so some amazing people are actually contributing in that chapter, but also in other chapters too. So there will be lots of yumminess coming out of it, I'm sure. So if you were to share some tips with our viewers, what would you share? Some practical. I'm all about. I am a firm believer that life can be so easy, and sometimes we complicate it. Sometimes not consciously, and that's where awareness comes in. So sometimes we complicate things, and I would like to keep them simple. So if there's any steps or any tips you can offer, so that people can actually bring into their everyday lives in a practical and sustainable way, what would that be?
Well, the one thing I have exercises along with the information that's written in the chapters. And another thing that's important to know about this book is it's not just a practical guide to awareness. It's illustrated by the tale of a woman's journey of faith. And that's a story that came in as I was writing the book. And I wasn't sure, but I just went with it. And it was very personal, however it all occurred. But that woman's journey, she went through doubts, fears, death, religious persecution, but she stayed true to her path. So that's a really beautiful part of the book. But also the book, it contains exercises, because we need to practice. We need to do it every day. So what I recommend to people is, if you're not meditating, or if you're not spending quiet time daily, whatever time of day is good for you. I do it in the morning. Spending quiet time and clearing your mind. And I do step-by-step exercises in the book. And if you're not meditating, start immediately. Because with, like, as you say, all the distraction in today's world, all the media, everything, and all the scary things too, we have to have a place to go that's peaceful and quiet and within. And when you connect to yourself in the quiet space, that is who you truly are. So when you do it and you do it effectively, you're immediately at peace and you immediately know that's me at the soul level. And that is one really, I think, important step in becoming self-aware, to try to do that daily, to try to do it, more than daily if you can, but also do it, start with a few minutes, and you can extend the time. You don't have to sit in meditation for 30 minutes every day. I mean, some days I don't. Some days you're not ready to do it. Sometimes you don't feel like it. But if you do it every day and you do something just for a few minutes to have quiet time, you will know who you are at the soul level. So that's one thing I think that's extremely important. And it's been a lifesaver for me, and staying in alignment, because once you're in alignment, everything flows, and once you're in alignment, everything is made easier, as you said earlier. And I have found that to be true, and I guess I've been doing that, a certain process every day since I did the conscious writing retreat, because of course I've been working on the book in various stages. Another thing I recommend is to either make an idea board, or you can draw, you can paint, you can put magazine pictures together without restriction. Make some creation of what illustrates you, what you love, what you see as beautiful, what your dream life would be. Make a vision board, because that's also very helpful, because that's who you are. When you put those things up in front of you in a visual form of that you think are important or beautiful, and I don't mean only at the surface level, it can be anything, it can be pictures of clouds, it can be pictures of horses, it can be a house in the south of France, whatever that is that you're drawn to, that you love, make a vision board and do it every day, or look at it every day, because that's who you are. And then you start really connecting at a deeper level, and you may be surprised by what comes out. And the third thing, I think journaling is always really helpful. People don't have time to do that, but writing down what you notice changing in your life, I think it's very helpful to track where you're going once you start on the path to self-awareness. And even if it's just an observation that you don't think, but it's very important, because you'll see changes, and you'll be happier about, okay, so I am doing the work. I am finding a difference. This is something that I like. I don't like this part, but I like this part. So tracking. Mm-hmm. So I also have that in the book. So those are 3 tips that I think anyone can do, no matter if you're a CEO, or if you're the president of the United States, or the leader of the UK, wherever, you can do that. Everyone has time to do that. It doesn't take a lot of time. And it really helps you go back to focusing on yourself and doing that for a few minutes every day. And then things just open up, ideas, thoughts, observations.
Yes, brilliant. These are absolutely something that I bring into my coaching. I loved offering these tools to my clients too, because color is also an awareness toolkit. So people are drawn to different bottles, and they're drawn on a soul level. The mind doesn't know anything. They're actually connecting with the color on a soul level, and they're coming up, and then I am translating, interpreting, and then they say to me, "How did you know these things?" I said, "I don't. You told me." You are here. You're here to go deeper, but also you become more self-aware, and that's how color therapy, color psychology works as well. So it's. Yeah, and then once the therapy starts, that's what you suggested, Susan, journaling, because that's how, you step by step, you become to understand more and become more conscious of what's happening in your life, and how you respond, and how you are, you're actually on the giving and on the receiving, And what's, again, you're becoming more and more aware of your own behavior, your own attitude, and how other people coming back at you with different responses as well, and how life treats you, really. Because and when you allow space and time, as you said, Susan, and then you're giving that signal to the universe that you deserve to receive attention and love and goodness and prosperity and joy. And that's how the law of attraction works. And that's, I'd like to bring that in our conversation, because it's like it fits in really well. And that's how it works. And that's why, all of these tools that Susan suggested, they have proven that they are absolutely amazing steps and strategies, or whatever you want to call them, that you can really easily bring into your everyday life. And however busy you may be, I know that you are leading busy lives, and I don't like to use the word. However, that's how it is. But you really, it's actually choosing to put yourself first, isn't it? Sometimes, we need to say, I need to have that clarity, I need to have that space for me, I need to have that flow, that freedom, and their words are amazing, absolutely amazing. That's what I have experienced in my own life. That's how Susan has experienced herself, and that's how I can see it in when I work with my clients too. So yes,
and that
brilliant.
Self-care is addressed in the book, and it's really the number one thing I feel for every person, not just women. But it seems that women, because they're the mothers, they birth the babies, they work and take care of the kid. It's just conditionally a different situation for women. Mm-hmm. And so it's really difficult for women, I think, to put themselves first. And you may think you are by having everything you want, but it's really about really putting yourself first, like Chrisoula says, and saying, taking the time to be quiet, to think about yourself, to think about what really makes you happy, what really makes your heart sing. Not your kids, not your job, not your clothes, not your husband. That's all great, but really it's all about you. And once we all find the truth of who we are, then we can share our gift with the world, and then the world is raised up and uplifted. And that's the purpose of my book, to help you figure out those things in a simple way. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah. Fabulous. Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you
so much, Chrisoula. Thank you so much.
So this call is going to be uploaded on my YouTube channel, and of course you'll be able to watch the replay as many times as you wish and whenever you can. And again, create a space and the time to connect with myself, Chrisoula, Sirigou, and with my guest today, Susan Nefzger. And of course, your book, Susan, is available on the Amazon, correct?
Yes, Amazon UK and Amazon US and Europe, and other distribution channels. Should be able to find it everywhere.
Yeah. Is there a particular link you would like to share with us, like something people like you direct to your website or some sort of platform?
I have a website that's my poetry blog, which I also started through conscious writing poetry, which was crazy. So the link is there, but if you just go on Amazon UK or Amazon US and type in A Practical Guide to Awareness by Susan Nefzger, it'll come up. But there is a link there on the blog. Yes.
Okay, so brilliant. Well, thank you once again, Susan. Thank you for joining me here today's episode on the Golden Muse Show. And yes, so look after yourselves. Look after yourself. If I'm talking to you individually, and on Thursdays also I'm on broadcasting the Health and Healing Show. It's a radio show broadcasting online. And however, it's not possible to have guests from abroad on the radio show. So I've got this wonderful platform here for all of us to connect, because I believe there's always a way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So thank you, Susan, and thank you to all of you who's taking the time to watch this and implement some of the strategies. If you haven't already, or if you have started, find somebody else to play with, because life is all about enjoyment and life being fun and lighthearted. Okay. Lots of love from me and lots of love from Susan.